This is an Empty Closet Radio podcast. Get more at facebook.com/emptyclosetradio.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sam.
And this is The Empty Closet.
The show for everyone, whether you're in the closet
Or out and proud.
or somewhere in between.
101.9 Coast FM, you're in The Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. And Sam is not joining us today because I'm on holidays and I brought the microphone with me. Some holiday because I'm still recording the show. But hopefully Sam is listening at home and loving what we've put together. So coming to you from Sydney today, I'm down here for the Sydney Mardi Gras. It's all very exciting. Hopefully you'll enjoy what we've prepared. Joining us over the phone is Ian Byford. He's a fantastic historian and one of the best, most long-standing community members that has really served our community during his time in Cairns. And we'll learn a little bit about his time in Cairns and a bit about the history of Cairns as well. It's very remarkable. He's got a new book coming out. Look, if you are interested in listening to our previous episodes, just check out on your favorite social media site, search for Empty Closet Radio, hit the like button. You'll be kept up to date with all of our latest and greatest shenanigans. And if you do podcasts, make sure that you use your favorite podcasting app to search for Empty Closet Radio, subscribe to us, and hey, if you're feeling really generous, it would help us out if you left a comment as well. Just give us a rating on the store. Also, if you use the blue tweeting bird, just search for @emptycloset_AU and that'll keep you in the loop as well. Let's get on with it. 101.9 Coast FM, you're in the Empty Closet.
I can't believe it every day and night. You are the only one who's on my mind. You got me. And when I'm not
Empty Closet Radio. Listen to us using your TuneIn radio app on your smartphone. Very smart.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam, and joining us is Ian Byford. Ian, welcome back to the show. I know you've been on our show a couple times before, but thank you for joining us again. Now, Ian, I was interested to know, I know that you've moved from England over to Cairns many, many years ago, and you have become quite the local historian. Tell us a bit more about moving to Australia. I imagine it would have been quite different to home life.
Well, it was very different, of course, Andrew. I came from England in the 60s and arrived in Australia or Queensland in 64 after having completed an agricultural degree in England. And I came here to Australia because there was work here for a graduate, and I was fortunate to eventually get a job with the Department of Primary Industries and stayed with them for 28 years. And I was based first of all at Ayr, just south of Townsville. And that's when I came up one weekend up to Cairns and discovered a tropical paradise up here.
Absolutely.
But I was then transferred in the 70s to to Kirrai on the Tablelands, and I was there for a few years when I was then transferred down to Brisbane and stayed in Brisbane until I retired from Brisbane and then came back here in 96 and stayed here ever since.
And of course, while all of this moving around was going on for you in your personal life, it was a tumultuous time for gay and lesbian people, particularly gay men, I suppose, would be the focus of what you'd be exposed to. What was it like? I understand that there was a period there where everyone was in hiding, and it was legally it was a bit of a minefield for us, wasn't it?
It was, but there were people who were not in hiding as such. A lot of people were closeted, of course, and didn't want to come out because they, one, could lose their jobs. Secondly, they could be charged if they were found to try and attract a policeman or any kind of activity outside in the public. But people did lead as much as they could their own private life. in private and did that and enjoyed life. They just kept a low profile. Some people, of course, didn't keep low profiles, and they're the ones who were attacked and vilified by people. And fortunately, that doesn't happen. And it was in Cairns in the 1980s, the middle 80s, when it was Ted Kelk, who was the person who was working up here at that time, decided that he'd change or want to have those laws which kept people, closeted as such, changed. And it was in he did this with Pat O'Hara, who was a well-known person up here. And Pat, of course, was the person who was one of the three ladies who actually started the Women's Ruth Shelter. And she joined up with Ted Kelk, who'd been a teacher, and he taught for 23 years at Parramatta State School, and had resigned or retired. And he then decided that the gay law, the draconian laws, gay laws should be changed and removed from the statute books.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet. We're speaking with Ian Byford, who is a local historian and has written a lovely gay history of Cairns.
We don't have a plan. Just pack our bags and run as fast as we can.
Empty Closet Radio. Like us on Facebook.
101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. Joining us on the line is Ian Byford. Ian, you were just talking about some very interesting characters who were quite instrumental in creating change in the Cairns local area. Are these people profiled in somewhat more detail in your book that you've written?
Yes, both Pat O'Hara as well as Ted Kelk. There's a couple of lovely stories about them, but I've in fact dedicated the book, Passing Glances, the History of Gay Cairns. I've actually dedicated the book to them because they were the ones who started law reform here in Queensland.
Now, do you think that it's all about law reform, or is there part of the equation like a social reform, like changing people's attitudes as well as the law?
As soon as the law was changed, people came out, and heterosexuals and other people found that gay people were not the devils that they were supposed to be, and were able to socialize without any kind of harassment or whatsoever of their younger children or anything like that. And they were perfectly normal people. So attitudes have changed because the gay community has got a very much higher profile. And it's the mystique of being gay and being a nasty person and somebody who is the devil, etc. And that is still one of the attitudes, I think, from some very, very stringent people who work, who are very anti-gay because they don't understand what it's all about. And I'm sure you will never change their attitude. But it's the higher profile of gay people could see that, people are normal. They're just like you and me. And believe it or not, if you scratch the surface at all with a family, you'll find that either they've got a near relative or at least a cousin or maybe a nephew or niece who are gay. It's not many people who could say that their families have no gay connection.
Absolutely. And I know that change is always difficult, and I imagine that in this process in Cairns we must have seen some social actions that might have been like I guess turning points for the process of law change. What are some of the most important moments in our local queer history?
Well, to me, was the formation of the Gay Law Reform, Queensland Gay Law Association of Gay Law Reform, and that was in '87. And it wasn't. And the next And then, there were all kinds of meetings going on there, and high-profile, meetings with other people, with some politicians supporting it. But that was a turning point, I think, for people to suddenly realise they were terrified, of course, still losing their jobs, because the B.L.K. Peterson government was still in power then, and the actual rules and regulation had not been repealed, and they weren't repealed until 1990, and that was one of those that was a momentous time for gay people to be able to come out and not be afraid of losing their jobs. Because, when you lose your job and you don't get the bread and butter coming in, then it really is very difficult to live.
Yes, I can well imagine, and I think it's not just a thing with gay people, but like that's a universal thing. If you cut off someone's resources, it can definitely marginalise someone who's already marginalised.
Empty Closet Radio, because no one else wants to be stuck in the closet. God.
And I suppose the next step within our community here in Cairns was us being invited into the parades, the Fun in the Sun parades, which is now, of course, Cairns Festival. And we're very prominent in those particular parades and coming out and being there to be seen.
What was the first parade like, Ian? Were you there?
No, I was in Brisbane at the time, so I couldn't say what it was. I would have thought. I don't believe we were in a festival parade here in Cairns until the late 90s anyway. But we did put a float into the Sydney Mardi Gras in '94 from Cairns.
Oh wow! What a timely moment. So the parade that's on, the festival that's going on in Sydney right now, we actually were participating since '94.
In '94, we had a float, and we came 14th in their judging.
Oh wow! So it was obviously a very good float then.
Oh well, we have the talent up here. We have people up here who could make wonderful sides, and of course most floats, that have got a display or on them, they need professionals to make it look really good, and we had those people here. And, of course, people had the incentive of trying to raise money for those, and it costs a bit of money, of course, to put a float together and take it down to Sydney. And I think it was something like $3,000 odd. In '94 was quite a large sum of money.
Oh, I think it's still a large sum of money for community groups, even in 2017.
Oh, very much so, very much so. And, of course, remember, this was at a time when HIV/AIDS was in the community, because the first people in Cairns were seen in about '84, and it was only in 1996 when the antivirals came up or were developed. And
so that's like the new medications.
After that time, Andrew, there was very little hope of recovery. Well, there's none, very little. Most of the drugs they used were poisoning people. But some did survive, and they survived, fortunately, past 96 when they were able to be treated, with antivirals, which were really which were able to not cure them, but keep all the symptoms at bay.
Absolutely. And I know that the AIDS epidemic during the 90s really shaped the gay scene in Cairns to become what it is today. So let's talk a bit more about that after this.
When I found out, I can't get you. When I found out, I can't get you.
Empty Closet Radio, facebook.com/Empty Closet Radio.
When I found out, I can't get you. When I found out, I can't get you.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. Joining us over the phone is Ian Byford. Ian, we were talking just before about how the AIDS epidemic during the 90s really shaped Cairns. I know that there was, you were saying there are some people that that did survive, but on the whole it was a very grim outlook if you did contract HIV, which is now, of course, not the case, but it wasn't until the 90s that those antiretroviral medications were invented. So what I understand that Cairns really became quite a spot for people to congregate. Tell us a bit more about how that unfolded.
Well, there was, of course, an undercurrent of gays up here, and the scene up here had been very vibrant. And when people were, they were tested positive, then a lot of people did come up to Cairns, and there was huge support for people up here. I mean, the AIDS Council, had started in Brisbane. They eventually started an office here in 87, 88. But before that, there were volunteers who were absolutely doing, nursing. They were doing, there was advice going out. People were horrified to find anybody who was actually HIV positive. And it was, people didn't know how it was spread. They all thought it was possibly mosquitoes or touching a glass or breathing the same air as somebody else. That it was a horrible time because one did not know at that stage, how it was being spread. But people who were affected received tremendous support from gay people, from other people, and of course funds had to be raised, and there were lots of costume parties and things like that to raise funds for them, for care for them. And that was it was community driven, and it was one of those things that the gay community would be terribly proud that they helped each other. And it needs something like that, I think, which was appalling for people to get together.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely something to unite around that has shaped who we are and shaped some of the services that we haven't. I mean, we're very lucky to have one of the best sexual health services, I believe, in the state, in our very own backyard. And
yes, we do. And I think, even today, the Queensland AIDS Council, and then there's Queensland Positive People, and then, of course, the sexual health, all those groups are there to help people who are positive. And they should also be there, and they are there, of course, helping people to prevent being positive. But there is support. There's always has been support, and I think within the book there's a very good. I've got a chapter on the HIV epidemic and how the Queensland AIDS Council played a very vital part in trying to help people. Not only did they try and help people who were positive, but they also got the community behind them, people who weren't positive, and they started all kinds of groups so that the actual community was able to be able to exist and become like a normal, and to be able to appear to be quite normal, if you call it normal. I think it's always very normal anyway. Fortunately, I've never been closeted, but I've been very fortunate in my life.
No, well, I don't think that I've ever been really properly in the closet either.
No, I don't think so, Andrew.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
You make me feel like all those kids that was supposed to stay the night but changed their mind and call their mommy. You are not me, I am dirty. You make me feel like all those kids.
Empty Closet Radio, because no one wants to be stuck in the closet.
We're speaking with Ian Byford, who's just written A Gay History of Cairns, Passing Glances. Now, Ian, the title of the book, what is the significance of the title of the book?
Well, in the olden days, You used to, when you went walking and searching for companionship, you would pass somebody, and you would know whether they were or not by a returned glance.
And do you think that
that was one of the reasons for having that title? But it is. I'm not going into everything in depth. It is a history book, but it's not an in-depth university study. It's one of where it touches on all the activities that were going on from the 60s onward, and because it's not in depth, I call it passing glances. That's why.
I absolutely love the title, and I think that the reference won't be lost on some of us. I think there's part of our culture though that I think is losing that skill set, if you like, of identifying those passing glances or opportunities, and even be it opportunities to find companionship or opportunities to socialize. We're missing it because maybe we're not putting ourselves in situations where we have the opportunity to pass someone in the street who we wouldn't normally meet. What's your take on that?
Well, I think you're losing a lot of opportunities when people are on using their computers or their telephones or whatever, and all these websites. Quite frankly, it's the person-to-person contact which is the most important.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. We're speaking with Ian Byford about his new book, Passing Glances. It's a gay history of Cairns.
You say we're irreplaceable. I met you when my heart was full. Now it's running.
Empty Closet Radio, 9 p.m. Tuesdays, 101.9 Coast FM.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. We're speaking with Ian Byford about his new book, Passing Glances. It's a gay history of Cairns. Now, Ian, your book is launching and you're throwing a big party so that my understanding is everyone can come along. Tell me more about what are the details if we'd like to get along and meet some of the characters in the book potentially, and meet yourself, the book's author, and perhaps grab a copy of the book.
Yes, I will have the book for sale at COCA, the Centre of Contemporary Arts, where the Jelly Babies are, on Friday the 10th of March from 5:30 onwards, 5:30 till 8. And there will be some nibblies, and of course the bar will be open. And if you're there early, you'll get a glass of champagne. But I'll be there with from 5:30 onwards. We'll have a few speeches about the book. I've got Wayne Reese, who's going to be the MC for it. I have Jan McLucas, who has been a great supporter of the gay community while she was in politics, and she will be declaring the launch of the book. I have the book there, and the cost of the book is $30, which will help to sort of reimburse some of the costs that's been involved in putting this together. I've actually had no other financial support from anybody else, so, I felt that I needed to do this because I just felt that the lack of recognition of Ted Kelk and Pat O'Hara in their starting the Queen's Association of Gay Law Reform, I think it needed to be put on the map and not had to be in permanently remembered. We've also got Kim Morris, who's been up here since about 77, and Kim will talk about some of his activities that when he was up here first and what it was like in the 70s, 80s. And I've also got Destiny Prophet, who's going to be talking about what she has found to be her take on Cairns. So, but they'll be speaking later on in the evening, and we have to vacate the building by 8 o'clock, and when people can go off and eat somewhere else. But there will be we'll be welcoming anybody who'd like to come along, and I'll have the book for sale at that time, and I'll be signing your copy. But I think
it sounds like a good opportunity to grab what sounds like a new landmark in our gay history of Cairns, is having a wonderful document put together like this, and it's really,
thank you, Andrew, for that.
It's really a testament to your dedication to the community. So thank you so much, Ian. It's going to be really fabulous, and I hope to see everybody there. That should be really lovely.
That'd be great. That would be great.
Now, you are on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet. Now, thank you so much for coming on the show, Ian, and sharing a few little snippets about gay Cairns and our history and where we're going. Now, just before I let you go, I would be really interested to know, after documenting all of the history of what has gone before us, do you have any ideas about what might lie ahead of us as a community?
I think we've got to get together and still, we do have organisations here, but we've got to get, I say, not so much out of the closet, but get our asses out of the house and get together and celebrate some of the best things that which our community has. One, of course, is the Pride Festival that comes up once a year. Get behind that, get behind the out parties, which held once a month, and really sort of become more active within the gay community and support each other. And if we can support each other, we'll be okay. And that's part of how you live, isn't it?
It absolutely is, Ian. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and we hope to see you at the book launch.
High times, let them go. For 2 turntables and a microphone. It's the only way that I know. Baby, you could.
Empty Closet Radio. Follow us on Twitter.
101.9 Coast FM, you're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam, joining us from a long way away. Look, today's show has come to you from Sydney Mardi Gras. I'm down here experiencing it all. Hopefully some live journalism on next week's show when I remember to take my recording equipment to one of the parties, potentially. Anyway, hope you have enjoyed today's show where we met Ian Byford. He's an amazing person in our community, and I really hope that everyone gets to his book launch and really gets behind this book, which is a true gift to our community, documenting the history of what has gone before us, and hopefully we'll be able to have this as a starting point for keeping track of what the history of gay Cairns might be into the future. Now, if you would like to subscribe to our podcast, that would be fantastic. You can catch up on all of our old episodes. Just if you use your favourite social media or podcasting app, search for Empty Closet Radio, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be kept up to date with the latest and greatest. If you use the blue tweeting bird, make sure you search for @emptycloset_AU, and you'll be kept up to date as well there. Until next week, have a good time.
Thanks for listening to The Empty Closet, brought to you by 101.9 Coast FM Cairns.